Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Uh,
Rafa.
If I look
Hey,
sweaty, it's
Robert.
because I am.
What?
It's a long uphill going back home. So if I look sweaty, it's just because I am.
Oh,
Unfortunately for you guys, but
well, good to see you, man. How's things going? How's the new job?
well, it's only been 1 week, so but they
Very nice.
a lot of good things. Like today, the entire organizational kind of structure kind of changed because the thing that we didn't work. So people were like, "Well, let's change that then," and it just like completely redid everything because you should be able to. So it's a totally different mindset than like big corporate things.
Yeah,
That's all.
good to be
So I like
better.
it. So far, so good.
I'm actually not far from you. I'm in Copenhagen right now.
It's one
Even
of those
though
like,
behind me is Golden Gate Bridge, but
yeah, it's one of those things that you're so close, but yet so far.
yeah.
It's still a long way to walk.
Yeah. Isn't there a ferry from here? Are you
Yes.
in Oslo?
Yeah, you can take what we call the Danish boat. I don't know. It's literally what we call it because it goes to Denmark. Why complicate things?
Okay.
Yeah.
I took one of those ones.
Oh, it's nice.
Do you know Rafa? He's yeah, Rafa, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Rafael Spazzoli. I work at Red Hat in consulting. I've been thinking about platform and developer experience for about a year now. And then thanks to Josh, I discovered that we have this working group. So I would like to start participating, contributing, whatever. But I'm very passionate about this topic.
Excellent. Welcome. And it's nice to meet you, although virtually for now.
Yeah, Rafa's got a lot of good articles about like paved paths or golden paths and what needs to go into a namespace for people to use it and stuff.
Yeah.
We may have a little debate about namespaces and clusters, but we'll save that for another day.
That's an ongoing discussion. Like I don't think there's an end to that kind of discussion. Like, where do you split it? Where to split
it? Yeah. So let me help me understand what we're doing in this group. What is the plan?
Yeah. So
it's okay. I don't know if you have an agenda today. It's just the three of us. It looks like.
I do have a slight agenda, but right, I never count on people showing up. But I mean, I think that the purpose of the group is, I know Rafa, you're in tag storage, so you can give us perspective from there. But what I see as our mission is to support the projects in ways that we can, which I think is mainly by introducing them to each other and rationalizing them in the space. Support end users in ways that we can, which I think is by gathering feedback from them and channeling it back to the projects and something back and forth. And then third, kind of to some degree, showing people or guiding people, with examples and things like that, like Potato Head is an example, or other blogs that we write or that we point to. So those are kind of
okay. Yeah, I think in tag storage, the first step was to define cloud native storage, right? So here, I don't know, we want to translate it, but essentially, define and rationalize this space. You can be monitoring the tooling, but I think it's better first to have a definition, right? And that internally I was trying to start with create some content around the definition. Then we went on writing the performance guideline and the disaster recovery guideline. Those are storage specific things, right? But yeah, speaking of tag storage, they meet at the exact same time as this meeting. So totally, I had to make a choice, but it would help me a lot if we could move this meeting.
I don't think there's a reason why we can't, because it is basically just me and Josh at the moment, and then people pop in back and forth. So for me, it doesn't matter.
Time would work. for me. Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
I interrupted you.
But I agree about like kind of like defining in this case, because you know it was first called cooperative delivery, which it is actually, I think it actually is a fitting name, but it kind of doesn't explain what's going on. But you know, it is actually kind of a fitting name because that's kind of what we're doing with the platform, right? But the rename to platforms just makes sense. And Josh has been doing like a document about actually those kind of things, like specifically like you know, what is a platform and so on and so forth. And I think that is a it's kind of like we did with Open GitOps, right? Like one of the first things and like most important things were like just defining what is GitOps, and that turned out to be principles. So you know, there are 4 principles to what GitOps actually is. Not necessarily saying that we need to do that for platforms, because I think it's a much rounder term, right? But platform can mean a lot, which is usually what when I speak about platform engineering and stuff like that, I kind of have to go back to and explain that. Like if you ask me what, you know, how does your platform look like, it might be totally different than something someone else has been doing, you know, but it's still a platform, right? So I think we have some stuff around that, and I think like surfacing, not necessarily strategy, maybe strategy is the wrong word, but like different approaches to creating platforms in some aspects might be useful for people. Because because again, like right now I'm actually working on internal platform stuff at my new company, but it's actually to facilitate creating platforms for clients and customers. So you know, I'm building a platform that creates platforms, you know, just because.
Can I ask where you work? Sounds very interesting to me.
It is a really small company called the company name is actually 42. The full name is Amesto 42. Amesto is a Norwegian organization with a lot of money, and they need some good IT people. So, you know, it's basically a startup, more or less.
Okay. Yeah, I been planning for a while to write a document trying to define a platform, and it was going to go around the same thing that you mentioned, possibly guiding principles, then a sort of inventory of what the thing you need to think about, and then for some very specific problems, maybe some guidelines, right? So I'm eager to join our efforts, maybe come up with the document that we can all agree on. I have my experience. I built my platforms, right? But
it's one of those things where you could potentially sit, you know, in a corner and create your like definition of a platform and build your platform, and then you talk to someone else and they have a totally different approach to the exact same problem, and they both solve it. Like both approaches solve it. Platforms is very much a thing that's it. I usually don't. I don't like absolutes. I don't like when people say this is the right option, or you know, you're supposed to do something in a certain fashion. Some cases that is true, obviously, but like platform is such a hard thing to define. You can't say you need to take this thing and connect it with this, and then you have a platform, you know.
If we ever reached, well, you know that there is a website called Internal Developer Platform, right, where they have their own definition, their own inventory. We should really probably reach out to them and see to what extent they want to collaborate.
Are you thinking in specifically about Humanitech?
No, there's a different. They are the company behind that site. This site is supposed to be open collaboration.
Yeah, I've been in discussion with them about several things.
They are a little bit self-serving in what they publish, but they have a lot of good vision, in my opinion.
So we did have, I've been trying to bring a lot of people together, and I really took the advantage of the transition of the name to KubeCon to bring a lot of folks together. I even brought the Humanitech folks in, Centasso, a few others. I've been asking everyone to look at this document. And please ask anybody else, the internal developer platform people, if you know them, Rafa, bring them in. I kind of been thinking with this initial paper, like, I want to gather as many educated opinions as we can, get us, put something down that we can, debate, and plan to iterate. I set kind of in the issue, I kind of said, let's get something done by the end of the year so that we, have something to talk about. And then I really want to get more experience reports from end users. And in fact, I met the folks that work for Diagrid who are productizing Dapper, were very eager to help out, to connect us with implementers of platform engineering that will give us feedback. So that was kind of my agenda for the day, actually, which I kind of put in there, was to discuss that paper, which I think has evolved. To me, there's two things that I have been kind of drafting out there. One is the key attributes of a platform, both the positive attributes and the caveats. And then the next section is, here's the 10 core capabilities. That's, that like resource compositions and service catalog and observability and pipelines, and which I really want to debate. I want, a lot of opinions here. So we can have, a rough consensus. These are the things, which I think actually, my goal is having the users in mind, like these platform engineers, where's their checklist? As you're building your platform, what are the things you should be thinking about including?
Yes, that's exactly where I'm going with my, the slide that I shared yesterday. And Robert, I don't have any issue sharing it also with you, but Josh, if you want to go first, that's fine too, either way. But yes, that's my inventory essentially. But as you saw, it's an inventory of capability and processes. There is no product, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where I would start at least.
I do in my doc. I've been pointing to some of the CNCF stuff just because this is CNCF. So, and
that's fine. But in my opinion, that comes later. We cannot totally do it, right? Oh, you want to implement a secret management service. Okay, these are your options, right? But first you have to understand where it go, like what role it needs to play in the platform. Then the rest is technicality. And I don't even like if we, it's going to be very hard to maintain if we start doing, those, if we go too deep.
And I was kind of thinking, like, if we can all agree on the 10 categories, then we can choose, if we're passionate. Like, I know Alex Jones from the main tag had wanted to work on multi-tenancy, and I'd started working with him on that, and it's come up like with vCluster and KCP. But even other things like secrets management, like if you look in this doc, which I just shared, where about halfway down on page 2 or 3 is where right now there's a list of tons of capabilities, which to you, what you were saying, Rafa, is more abstract capabilities with projects on the far right. I'm kind of thinking if we select some of those, then the next step might be to double click, as they say, in a specific domain that needs clarification. Like secrets management I feel like it needs clarification.
I think, like, for instance, before that, because you have the diagram of the components, I think like that as a topic, like for instance, like what kind of capabilities do your platform need? That is a very important question that you need to ask yourself before you start building stuff. The tools that you use for that, obviously, as long as it's doing it for CNCF, you obviously want to promote CNCF projects for these type of things. But like, first you need to know what you're supposed to be doing with your platform. And I think we could even start doing for lack of a better term, content around like how do you do that? Like, how do you how do you structure that as a project, and like how do you?
Oh, you froze for me.
Yeah, for me too.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, but I agree with him.
Mhm.
I will start from a little bit more of an abstraction. Not that what you have is wrong, but I need to read it. I'm gonna commit to read it in details. I think it's similar to what Bar was also doing, right?
Yeah.
You must. Did you take
We both,
inspiration also a little bit from there? Yeah. And
I
he
would
took
like to say
inspiration from.
I would right, I'd like to say I inspired him, but yes.
Okay, that's fine too.
But we've been talking
And
a lot.
it's kind of the same content that is on the internal developer platform.
Because I wrote that. Yes, I put internal. Oh, I thought you meant Burzdoc. The second chart here is actually
Yeah.
I put both of those. But I actually
But they-
shifted to the capability orientation in this upper one.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely. I asked. So the other person that has looked at it so far is Abby Bangser from Kratix, who I've been talking with, and she's put in some comments there. And
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Robert, welcome back.
Thank you.
Oh, we also have another person, Puneet, I think.
yeah, hi Puneet. You want to say hi?
Yeah, hey. Sorry. Didn't mean to. I was hoping to lurk a lot better than I did. Is all I'm
Well, your name pops up on the screen, Hard to look.
No, I attended the KubeCon platforms working group meetup, and I figured
Okay.
it's interesting, so I wanted to just join and see what we do and maybe contribute. So
Yeah,
Welcome.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I haven't read
you
anything. Sorry. I will definitely read before the next meeting and try to pay attention in Slack some more.
It's one of those things where these open source initiatives is kind of hard if you're fully immersed at work and things like that. So just is better than not. We're just happy to see people, me and Josh.
Yeah,
I've been doing this by ourselves, or
Yeah,
Josh
no,
have been.
I had my
most of the
other
work.
meeting going on that I
Yeah.
quickly muted
Two in one.
so I could talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's exciting stuff, man. So I hope to read up on the charter and be more useful by next time. Just want to
Excellent.
understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So yeah, I think Robert, when you fell out, you were talking about like an exemplar platform, which makes me think of, I don't know if you saw Mauricio Salatino's keynote at KubeCon, but that was like an example of a way to, build parts of a platform, I felt like.
I'm very much behind on basically everything. I actually been today watching stuff from KubeCon. So, I'm still trying to, but no, I didn't see that one, the keynote.
Yeah, so he wrote a bunch of articles about it. Here, I just pasted it in because Abby actually added it to the bibliography in that doc before, so that's good stuff. Yeah. And we've actually a couple people have been working on Potato Head stuff, so I don't know if right now that's not enough to demonstrate a platform with, but maybe it could evolve into that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like Potato is an project to use to try to showcase some stuff, because we need an application in some fashion. There's no point of building platforms without having something to run on it. So it's good that we have that, so we can use that in examples. But yeah, I think we should slowly move forward. If we start by defining what a platform is, or it doesn't have to be like a definitive. GitOps is more specific. GitOps is a very specific thing. There's a reason why a lot of people are think they're doing GitOps and they're not. So you need definitive kind of rules to define that term, operational model. While a platform can be so many things, but some not rules, but some definition I think would be good for the community to have something to look at and kind of understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if they disagree with a point or two, that's kind of like there's some things in the GitOps stuff I don't 1000% agree with. But yeah, like if we just have a stake, and that's, you know, for people to debate, like if we include, I don't know, store artifacts and source, or actually development environments was one that Abby was saying, oh, that should be a top level capability. And I was like, is that something that's in a platform or not? You know, or
Well,
test frameworks.
Yeah, okay. I consider the inner loop to be part of the platform, which indirectly touches the developer environment. I think. But yeah,
I'd say dev environment, CI/CD, and then production. All of that. Isn't all of that platform? Again, I haven't read the charter, so I'm sorry. But
yeah.
just
Uh,
trying. Yeah.
Yeah, but we just tried to break that down a little further. Like, what does a production environment look like? What are the pieces that a platform engineer needs to make sure are available for the app dev to use?
and like I said, if you just start at one end, like because like my girlfriend actually asked me while I was talking about the fact that I was going to talk about platform engineering at DevOps Days in Oslo, and she kind of asked, so you know, what is a platform? And I'm kind of like, well, it's this magical thing, you know. So you know, having that as a definition first, like I said, it doesn't have to be like a very explicit one, but you know,
Yeah.
something to work from, and then we can start like breaking it into like how do you do environments, like how are they supposed to, you know, interconnect when it comes from like from platform standpoint, all the way down to how do a developer or a user of the platform interact with it, you know, all those kind of things. So we can at least start in one end, and kind of one thing will lead to another, I think, maybe.
What's really struck me is how some people think of Backstage as the platform. But what that says to me is that when you're looking at the platform, that's what you see. That's what's first, is the APIs and the portals and all that kind of stuff. And what comes behind it, that's like, I think it's going to vary. Like some companies might just write a portal over, I don't know, Azure services, but some might have an operator that provisions something. Some might go deeper. That's kind of.
And you know, for instance, like Golden Pass, a good example. That might be as simple as just templating certain things and just making it available, and then put it on whatever you're doing your stuff, and you're gonna have sort of like, I wouldn't say platform, but you know, it's at least like one part of it. It's making it for people to get their stuff to on something.
Yeah, I'd be curious what you all think. I put docs and templates next to portal and API as like an interface to the platform. Like the platform needs to have a pipeline runner, an observability system, and a resource provisioning system. But you're going to have a template built on top of that. Like you're not going to say, hey, go in and write your Jenkins or Tecton pipeline from scratch, you know.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where when you know, for me, like a platform isn't when people have pipeline YAML files that they copy back and forth into different pipeline scenarios. You know, that's not a platform. That might be part of a platform if it's done right, but it's not really. So you know, having that kind of like, you know, what does it mean to build a platform, which is you know, also it's kind of relevant to what I'm doing now, because I kind of have to define that.
Yeah.
So
I see the word very similar to you, Robert. I actually wrote an article on this about not copying back and forth the templates, the resources. Yeah. So how do we proceed on writing this document?
Can I share something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did an export and I did it wrong. Give me 1 second. This is the one, but I'm trying to find, I'll put it in the chat room and I'll find a better version of this. Give me 1 second. Maybe I need to do export with the background so it's not black. This is basically, sorry.
No, I was just about to say, yeah, if you got it with the background, it probably will be easier. But it's visible if you right click and like open just the picture, because then your browser will fill it with white or gray.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, good tip, Robert.
You know, you'd think I know computers. Something.
All right, here, this one's gonna be easier. No, this is from Whimsical. This is basically just a mind map of how I look at. This is me keeping an idea of all the things I've solved on a Kubernetes platform.
Yep.
Building it for a company that I was working for.
This is
So
awesome.
I'm not sure. Oh, thanks, man. That's very kind of you to say. I'm not sure if all of this is a platform, but you know, the idea of the journey of like everybody starts off with like a YAML that they apply, you know, and then they go to kind, and then, you know, they go to production, I guess. But like then everybody goes from that to customize to Helm to writing operators because they think they need operators. Like, you know, there's journeys in every single one of these. So yeah, I mean, I would say if we could collate something like this from all of our experiences, and then we could just pick it, like this was platform, but this was something I specifically solved for the company I'm at, or for the situation I'm in, or something. That would be one. That would be one way to do it.
One thing I was thinking, so Rafa also shared a diagram yesterday with some really good insights. Maybe we chat in this GitHub issue, you know, put those diagrams in there and just, you know, go back and forth and you know, we could do it in the doc too, but maybe the GitHub issue is the.
The tag app delivery repository is not very active, and I think it's not active because people don't see how you can use it for stuff like this. I think it's a good idea to put it there. It's supposed to kind of be where those type of interaction, you know, gets recorded, if you want to call it that. I also think I like the idea, and you know, it would be great to have, for instance, like the article that you sent me. There's a diagram there with apps, and then like a platform, and it says APIs. For me, like the self-service part of this is like key for a platform. That's just my opinion. I think a lot of people agree with that, because or else you kind of just like all are working with the same tools. Is, you know, for me, self-service kind of elevates to a thing, ergo a platform. But yeah, like all these kind of things kind of describe like why should a platform have APIs or some sort of fashion, you know, way to interact with it, and what order is necessary for it to become an actual platform, which I would say stuff like observability and you know, even testing. Again, it kind of depends on what kind of platform you're building, you know, for what purpose. Platform that I'm building to build platforms, that should probably talk platforms. Well, platform that I'm building to build platforms might not need chaos engineering.
I mean, we can safely all agree that platform to build platforms is going to be out of scope of our working group.
Well, I
need a platforms working group for platform in platform.
I'm just kidding.
But that's kind of, I actually have been thinking that's kind of who we and the, you know, the 10 people that came to the meetup and the maintainers, we're providing a platform, or at least building blocks for platform engineers. Like we are trying to reduce the cognitive load. Even Abby actually said that in one of her comments, trying to reduce the cognitive load for the platform engineers by creating frameworks, you know, creating patterns.
Which is great, because no one thinks about us. Because for me, one of the reasons why you build a platform like this is to reduce the cognitive load of the people who are supposed to use it, which is the developers who are apparently it's supposed to know everything about infrastructure, security, automation, et cetera, including then also then actually developing something, you know. Yeah. So yeah, it's like we can provide some cognitive, you know, release, whatever you want to call it.
Well, at least create some order in the current chaos, right? Then you know, you still have to study, right? If you're a platform engineer, there is no way around it. But at least sort the chaos that is right now and conflicting messages. You know, now we are in the hype situation where everyone that has a product is rebranding the product as a developer platform kind of thing. That it all adds to the chaos.
And that doesn't help. And I think that it's unfortunate that the people who are because I truly believe that platform engineering is the kind of like next step for us that are like on the operational side of things. We need to do better on that side, you know, to elevate the game. So I think platform engineering as like a domain knowledge is the way to go. The problem is that is now getting pushed not by something like, for instance, like a CNCF working group. Is getting pushed by other actors. Right. And I think there needs to be some sort of actual open, like, you know.
Yeah, I like your observation. I agree that what I see often in my customers is infrastructure teams are tasked to build a platform, and they don't see the world as the developers see the world.
Yeah.
And so the possible vision, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but their vision is always limited, and it never really they get to the point of solving real developer problems. My background is more in application development, actually, and I feel that at least sometimes I've been able to bridge that gap a little bit. And I would like to propose that when we choose a language to write our definition, we choose the developer point of view language, not the infrastructure side of the world, because we are building the platform for them, right? So, for example, a silly example that I was discussing internally with some colleagues, right? There is this debate: should we do namespace as a service or should we do cluster as a service? This is the wrong language. For me, this is irrelevant, because what a developer wants is environment as a service. Do they care if they run on a namespace or a cluster by itself? They don't care. If the platform is well designed, they don't even need to know, right? So these are the suggestion here that I'm posing. Go ahead.
The tricky thing with what you were saying is, how do you know when should you do? I mean, it's not even, I don't know. Is it a technological question about namespace versus clusters as a service? I feel like it comes down to, go ahead.
No, not to interrupt you, but I think that again, like I'm saying, like there's a reason why I think like platform engineering is kind of like the right like approach going forward. Because like one of the things that I always talk about when it comes to platform engineering is that we're doing operational things, but we have a customer focus, and in most cases the customer is a developer. And I've talked to developers about, for instance, like using Kubernetes, and if that developer is just doing most of the people that I talk to don't understand the reason why there needs to be a Kubernetes at all, because they can just go other places and put their code in and it works. That's what it boils down to, like the experience for them developing, right? And yes, there might be a number of technical reasons why you wanted to do it in namespaces, or having V clusters, or separate clusters, or abstract, so on and so forth. But for the end user, does that matter? In most cases, no. They just want, like, this is how we get our environment, and this is where we put our code, and now it works. The same that I talk about, like when it comes to monitoring, like you say you build it, you run it, but then they need to figure out how to connect all the dots and all the monitoring and how to get all the metrics, and they don't want to do that. But if you say you build, you run it, oh, by the way, here's the dashboard that shows you the status. If you have issues, you can see the logs here, etc., etc. Then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, well, we can do that. It's much easier for them to say, yeah, sure, rather than now you figure out everything that we've been doing for years. If that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's my experience too.
Yeah. So I like the idea about kind of writing it from. I try to not to use the word developer, because I have had several projects where I'm not necessarily working with developers. I might be working with people who are just using platform in a sense, and like I don't like to call it internal developer platform. I like internal development platform rather, because it's more of the case for me. but at least like write it from like an end user perspective.
Yeah.
Or show that you should at least care about the end user and make sure that they have a good experience.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, who is the audience for this paper? Because it might be I think it is the platform engineer. So we should emphasize that aspect that they need to treat the platform as a product and take the perspective of their customer, their user.
But yeah, it can be written in such a sense that you're like explaining, like, this is the angle your user is gonna look at your platform. Now, this is the reason why you, for instance, like if you work with people that it might be the best approach for them might be to have an API and then create a CLI tool for that API. And there you go, that works best for those people. And some might want a portal, some might want, et cetera, et cetera. There's no one solution that solves it for everyone, but you need to kind of like get it from like call it a customer perspective. I think it's important to get that across, because that is, for me, one of the key reasons why we even are creating platforms. Because if not, then I could just be the ops guy, and then Azure is the platform. Like a customer said to me when I asked, where is the platform you're building? Well, it's Azure. That's my platform, but where's the platform that we're building?
I mean,
Right.
that's interesting
It's
that you
true.
say that.
Sorry.
I just was struck by whether there's such a thing as buying a platform. I think about that sometimes. I think most people can't buy a platform. You have to have a thin layer.
Oh,
I say no.
not today. I mean, in the end, they all solve similar problems, but today, like Kelsey Hightower said many times, everybody wants to solve the problem in their own way, right?
And I don't think there is there isn't, and I don't think there ever will be a one solution that you can buy and then you have a platform, because we already have a platform. Like me that work with Azure, I have a platform. I have a lot of tools in my platform. That's great for me. But then someone else have a different perspective, so a different scope. They're supposed to create like these snippets of code that are supposed to run on something. They don't really care if it's if it's a container solution or if it's a place where you just stick your code in and it works. Like, they don't care about that. So for those people, I have to use my platform tools to create a platform for them.
Yeah.
And that kind of
sometimes like
trickles all the way down.
Gregor Ope, as a person, you wrote the enterprise integration patterns. His kind of a personality in IT, but he started doing platform related work at AWS. He has an entire talk just on this thing that Robert was saying. We could invite him and get his point of view. He is obviously working for AWS, so it's an interested party. But he has this concept of syncing platform. Like, you build a platform on top of the cloud, but then the cloud adds more functionalities, and they start eating away the functionality that you did. What do you do to keep your platform afloat and prevent it from becoming useless? As all of this kind of reasoning, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think there shouldn't be like people work where they work, right? Like, and everyone has some sort of angle usually, in some fashion, but that doesn't mean it's like ill content or something like that. I think that sounds good. It sounds like a someone with we can get a lot of inputs. I keep on saying, like, we need a lot of inputs to get some good outputs.
Yeah,
we can't just be a couple of people discussing this and then say, all right, here's the definition.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I would love to share my diagram, but I don't know if this is the right time. What do you guys want to do?
I mean, it's up to you. Do you want to just put it in that issue, or you could share it now, I guess. Why
I
not?
can put it. I was gonna share it here, get some
Okay,
feedback, maybe,
yeah.
and then
Good.
put it in the issue.
Yeah, you could share it here
Um,
and put it in the issue. How about?
Wait a minute, can I? Yeah, there is something here to share.
Yeah. Hello.
There's me.
Oh, let me see.
Yeah. So wave to the camera.
Is there? Can you guys say it? Is there a way to do a better zooming here?
You gotta zoom in on your side.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
think you just zoom in like you used it.
Yeah.
But I can see it perfectly fine. I have a big screen.
Yeah. So my idea was to try to represent processes and possible technology, areas, and in a sort of capability model, or at least logical progression on how you would build a platform. So that's how I started this diagram. It may not be complete, or maybe you even disagree, but just to share some ideas. So really the foundational capabilities that I've seen are needed are in an IDP, as in the security identity provider. Infrastructure as a service, which obviously by itself is the platform, like is another platform, right? It could be
Compute, network,
AWS,
storage.
network, compute. That's a large area, but I need to be able to provision infrastructure, right? And then there is secret management. I finally decided that it's a foundational capability. You basically, without that being, so I put it at the same level as IaaS and IDP. Without that being, defined, it's really difficult to build the rest in a self-service, API-driven, maybe GitOps-driven way. And then an observability stack that should also be part of the foundation. I think, maybe at this point you just have the ability to collect and display metrics, and send alerts, but you don't really have dashboards. But at least the low-level capabilities are there. And then I'm debating whether we should also have at the base the workload identity capability. This is becoming more and more important in the protected software secure software supply chain space. But anyway, it's a dotted line because I'm not sure.
And you mean by that like Spiffy Spire? Like stuff
Yeah,
that
could be a way to do it. Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, but if you're in Kubernetes, maybe you have a way to attest what the pod is, right?
Service
But
mesh.
we should not be targeting Kubernetes, right? Only. So do
Well,
you
that's
really
probably
have
a
it
good idea.
everywhere? What?
That's
Sorry, go
probably
ahead.
something to discuss too, like Kubernetes and where does it fit in this?
And
Well,
I agree with Rafa, because again, if you kind of go back and define what a platform is, it might not even be Kubernetes. It might be certain tooling, it might be certain approaches to certain things, and that like a total ends up being a platform. But
and Josh, as you know, our customers do not just have Kubernetes. Actually, Kubernetes and OpenShift is possibly a minor place where they run applications, right? But when they think about building a platform, they try to target a larger scope.
They love Ansible, which like
well, yeah. Okay. So, and then in red we have the processes, right? And I've identified some. Maybe there's something missing, but I need a way to onboard, right? I need. It needs to be easy way, almost self-service way. Let's say zero ticket experience, where I can come to this platform and get some space where I can do my stuff, right? I get the right credentials, the right quotas, and whatever it is that makes the platform multi-tenant. We don't know, but that needs to be taken care of in that step, right? And then I need a way to provision an environment or multiple environments, depending what I need. That should be, again, as a service. So let's say I want to run an application, I will need the environments for the SDLC. Once I am onboarded, I have a way to request that, right? And then credentials. I am deeply convinced that if let's take a namespace, if I provision a namespace and if I tell you what I'm going to use the namespace for, the platform should just populate the secrets that are needed and the credentials that are needed. If there is another way to, it's very hard to build another way, to build it in another way that is at the same time secure and frictionless. If you don't establish this capability at the bottom, that's why I have it here.
I've been thinking a lot about that, by the way. We might abstract that a little further. It's about a secure connection from workload to service. Like, let's say MTLS could provide that. Just saying, like, maybe there are other ways.
I'll show you I can show you technologically how I do it. But the point is,
Yeah.
if I provision an
Read the
environment
value.
and I'm telling you that I'm going to build applications in this environment, then I probably need my Git credential and my, container register credential at the very least. If you make me create that credential, and maybe I have a way to get that credentials from somewhere, but if you make me create that credential as part of my deployment in that environment, then you're going to have a broken security. It needs to just appear magically, because I told you what I was going to do with that. If I tell you I'm going to run a database in this namespace, which or this cluster or this environment, which comes later, but if I tell you I'm going to run a database, the database credentials appear magically.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Solution for that. Yeah, I agree. You need to have some solution for that.
I do have a solution for that.
No, I don't mean you. I'm saying that the platform engineer needs to have some
solution. Yeah. You need to.
I agree, because like environment as a service, sure, you could populate that environment with a lot of things, but at some point you have some sort of connection to something potentially external. I'm not saying that happens all the time. Because no absolutes, but for instance, like, again, my perspective is kind of like the Azure stack of thing, and then pod identity is kind of the way to get credentials into a pod to use with the platform, underlying platform. But at some point I might need to reach out to someone else's Azure environment. I need to maybe reach out to Azure DevOps or GitHub. I might need to, etc. At that point, those credentials should exist in a fashion that makes sense, like from an automation perspective, but also like just to make it a way that makes it easy. Again, like it's something that the end users are not supposed to have to think about. They should need to just, now you need to go in and do these commands to get your secret in or something like that. That shouldn't be necessary.
Right, I agree. But the next level for me is to build the developer capabilities. Again, not trying to make it easy at this point for the developers, just have the capabilities. Because, if we stop here as a developer, I could still, provision my environment, and then I have to provision my build tool and my repo tool and my all of the things. Instead, we could recognize that these are shared capabilities. They just exist, and people will be onboarded, and somehow they will be available to them. So I have some here, but the list could be very long here, depending on what you need to do with your code, right? When you build it and when you run it. But here, then you have component onboarding, application and component onboarding. I'm using the Backstage concept words here, but so it's the ability to say, hey, there is this, I have a component that needs to run in this environment, and you can find it at this repo, right? And then from there, the platform should be able to understand. Then the ability to code and do inner loop. I can explain some of the problems that I've seen here, but if we're here to enable developers, inner loop should be in scope, in my opinion. And then the ability to run a pipeline and build the code. So the outer loop ability to or if you will, there's just more the CI, and then you have the CD. I was really tempted to say you need to do GitOps everywhere, and especially in your CD, but we can leave it for later. But you need to have an ability to do it, right? And then ability to observe and be alerted. So I can use this capability and start building my own dashboard and my own alerts. And then And then the next level is, okay, now we're starting to make it easy for our consumers, for our users, right? So we started to have Golden Path and middleware as a service. Those are the two main things, because running stateful workload is hard. So we want to take that cognitive load away from the developers, I believe, and we do middleware as a service in some shape or form. The other is Golden Path, where we standardize and capture all the best practices, and we give you a way to use them, right? They shouldn't be mandatory, but they should exist, so that if I happen to build something that is in the Golden Path and I don't want to learn all of these, level of complexity, I can just onboard on the Golden Path, and I have an immediate path to production. And then maybe there are other advanced things like feature flagging and progressive deployments. This, I'm not too sure that this may be too much a detail for this slide, but maybe so we could discuss those. And finally, only at this point, for me, it makes sense to have a developer portal, right? You wrap everything up with some nice UI. And so I agree with Josh. Today, it's like if you install Backstage, you have solved all of your problems. And it's not really true. In fact, Backstage, the main thing of Backstage, in my opinion, is that if you already have a platform, it makes it much more appealing, because now you have a nice UI around all the capabilities of the platform, and the developers will like it much more.
Yeah, I agree. There and Backstage is good, but again, it's one of those things that it solves just a piece of the puzzle. But a lot of people think this solves it all, which
if you have you've succeeded if you can get a working Backstage. That's kind of your end goal, but you have to build the whole pyramid below it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that diagram kind of it puts a lot of things into perspective. I think it's a really good diagram. I didn't notice anything that I felt was missing, which is a good thing. That just means that I can't think of anything else to put in, so that's probably more on me rather than you. But I think it looked good, and these are the things that I often refer to when I talk about like building platforms. I think these are at least like key elements, and obviously there's different stages of maturity or phases or whatever you want to call it. Like you need to start somewhere, right?
Right.
But and it's not. Like, even though I like to run my stuff in Kubernetes and so on and so forth, that doesn't mean that I'm solving everything through there.
Right.
For instance, I don't want to host my own Git, because why would I? There are tools that do that, which works fine. So again, I think that's a good overview for all the types of this that you might need to put into something like a platform. I think it would be a really good follow-up after and again, I say defining, but at least like scoping. Maybe scoping is right. Scoping down what a platform is in the context of the work that we're supposed to be doing. Because in other contexts, it might be something different. Yeah.
So I would say if you don't mind, Raphael, maybe put it in that chat, and
sure.
Yeah, I kind of want to see some debate and see what other opinions we can turn up, and let's use that to
I'll ping you later to talk about where exactly we want to put it.
And if you want access to the doc,
I
was gonna say, if you want access to the doc itself to start, like, I see someone's in there now adding a bunch of stuff, but Robert, you have edit access. Anyone else that wants, just click ask to share or tell me whatever you want. I mean, I thought about making it open. I'll take, if you guys want to suggest that I do, but I didn't want it to get, I don't know. Should I just make it totally open? I think I'll hold for that. for
I
now.
I like the idea of it being totally open, but I don't like the end result of that, which
Yeah,
is usually a lot of chaos. I think a controlled flow is better. So
okay.
yeah, open is good, but you need guardrails, or else it's gonna become a
Yeah.
word I'm not supposed to use in public. Yeah, no, it's good, and I think also the drawing that you showed, Raphael, also kind of like kind of also is reflected in the drawing that you had, Josh, over the different like
Yeah,
capabilities and stuff like
similarities.
that. Although probably to a more detailed.
It's a little different.
Yeah, different
Yeah, I
approach.
think we're very
perspective.
similar. We have very similar point of views. Like I was saying to Josh this yesterday, I'm trying to also add processes instead of just technological capabilities,
Yeah.
right? Because I even think the processes should come first, almost, and you need to think of it. You need to model them in a way that makes sense for your users, right? Which is going to be always slightly different in every context.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the reasons why I don't like I think everyone should do Terraform. I think everyone should do infrastructure as code. You know, your approach differ from mine, but I think everyone should do infrastructure as code. You know, so it's kind of the same. Like we want a platform. What that platform means a lot of things for different people.
Yeah.
You know, there are different toolings that solve different problems, but first of all you need to figure out what are you supposed to be able to do with this platform, and then kind of tie everything together in some fashion.
So I want to be aware of time, plus I'm in
Yep.
Scandinavia like you, Robert, so it's 6 o'clock here now.
Is
Ready
that
to go get
late?
some-
I usually have meetings at like 10, 11 even.
Yeah, now I appreciate what it's like to be over here and everybody's getting to work as I'm done.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's continue the conversation. Yeah, in GitHub and in Slack. Rafa, are you in our Slack? You should join there. And maybe more people than me can speak up.
I will ping. Yeah, I will ping you to join the Slack. Yeah.
And let's figure out like a better time, because if in my opinion, if we have someone that is willing to help, but
yeah, absolutely,
timing doesn't work, like I don't need to, like this hour here might be a hour somewhere else. I don't really care as long as
we shouldn't conflict with tag storage anyway. That's reasonable. And I want now that they gave us access to Service Desk, I can ask them to actually change the calendar, so I will. Here's the Slack, by the way. It's in
Thank you very much.
All right,
guys, so thanks so much. Thanks for the
Excellent.
conversation, and looking forward to making this getting this out, getting some opinions and publishing something.
All right, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Bye.